Howdy everyone. I just realized something that is absolutely extremely important, and that is if you are using a horizontal induction system on your engine and you plan on using the van's snorkel for your carburetor inlet air, you need to leave enough real estate on your left inlet ramp for this to mount to. You can see this is a pretty good size piece. So here is the inlet ramp with everything else removed. That snorkel is going to mate to the bottom of this. So this needs to be big enough for that to mount to. Now I've already cut this back a little bit, but fortunately I have not cut it back too much. If I had cut this back way too far, I would have had to rebought this piece and remade all of this. I also have purchased the snorkel kit from Vans, and it has various aluminum pieces and whatever else. Comes with written instructions, mostly written instructions, a couple of photographs, and a couple of sketches. So I just happened to reread this. I had read this before, but it says right here, it says the engine baffle should be fit to the engine and cowl opening with the exception of the baffle part 2 for the parallel valve or part 32 for the angle valve. That's basically the inlet ramp. It says these parts will be replaced with this part number, blah, blah, blah. Bold print, do not trim the length of part 2 left front inlet floor at this time. So they're telling you right there, do not trim the length of the left side inlet ramp. You'll have to do that later. Looking through these instructions, you can see there's a part here, this VA 132 Delta, and there's a part here, 132 1 Charlie. So I have those out. There's the 1 Delta and here's the 1 Charlie. And you can see on the photograph here, this is the 1 Charlie piece. No, this is the 1 Delta piece. This is the 1 Charlie piece. And you can see the 1 Delta piece, the front edge of that piece is where the front edge of the ramp ends up. And you can see on this Charlie piece here, the front edge sticks out long before it. So this front edge basically of your inlet ramp needs to be long enough for this 1 Delta piece to fit. So I've taken both of these pieces and I've just laid them up here real quick. So there's the Delta piece there, and then the Charlie piece sits over here somewhere. And you can see I've got a little bit of overhang here, and I've got a lot of overhang here. So I am not going to do anything else with this ramp until I get to this point where I need to fit the snorkel. Fortunately, I found that because I was literally getting ready to lop this front edge back probably another ½ inch or more and then do that bend. But you cannot do the bend. This needs to be flat for the snorkel to fit, and it needs to be long enough for the snorkel to fit. So I am not doing anything else with this. Sorry. So I am just going to focus on this other side for now. You can see I've got it disassembled. I'm going to focus on this side first. And then I'm going to have to start fitting that snorkel so I can finish up this front side. So again, got to be fluid, got to be flexible. You got to take it as it comes and do what you can. All right. Talk to you guys later. Howdy, everyone. All right. So another slight change of plans. I was working on fitting the baffles. Of course, I was working on fitting these front ramp areas, but here's the thing. Like I said in my last video, I'm not going to work on this left side because I have to fit this ramp to the induction system. So I decided to work on this ramp here. And you have to do some bending on the ramp to get it to fit nice with the cowling. The problem is, well, maybe it's not a problem. Maybe I'm just making it a problem. But without this bottom cowling attached to the top cowling, there's movement. You can move this around. You can push it back. So in order to get this as good as I can get it, I would like to have the ability to put the top cowling on and attach the cowlings to one another and see where this lays. So in order to fit the top cowling, I got to trim the baffles. The side baffles and the back baffle need to be trimmed so that the top cowling will fit. So that's what I've decided to do. Now I know there are different ways to do this, and I am not going to try either one. I started to do what's called the paint stick method, I believe. And that's new to me. You basically clamp stir sticks, painting stir sticks to the outside of the bottom cowling, one in the front, one in the back on both sides. Then you put the top cowling on and you clamp it to the sticks. The sticks are on the outside of both cowlings. And you level the top cowling to the bottom cowling and make sure that the aft edge is even with the firewall. And then you can reach up underneath and kind of mark where you need to trim. That's the gist of it. I started down that road, didn't care for it, so I abandoned that. I'm not going to do the other thing, which is where you use paper clips. I'm going to do the initial trimming a different way, which I'm going to start talking about here in a minute. After I get the initial trim done, I might do the paper clips for fine tuning, but I'll cross that bridge after I get to it. So for now, here's my plan. You can see that the baffles are now completely off. I'm going to start with one baffle section at a time. So when I had the baffles in place, I had the top cowling on and I had it just laying on top of the baffles. I looked in from underneath, from the firewall side. I was able to look underneath, and I used a tape measure, and I measured from the baffle back to the edge of the firewall here. So from this edge of the firewall to the baffles, the back baffles only, that was around 11 inches. Pulled the top off, pulled the baffles off. So now I'm thinking of doing one baffle section at a time. I'm going to start with this aft section here. What I'm going to do is figure out how I can put this in place roughly 11 inches from this back edge, and then try to transfer the shape of the cowling onto it and then trim it. And I will continue to do that until I can get this baffle piece attached to the engine and the cowling to attach to the fuselage and to the engine. So after I get that piece trimmed, it's actually on this side, I will take that single piece, fit it in here, put the cowling on. If I can get the cowling on and get it pinned, then I'm good. I'll leave that in place and I'll move on to the next piece. Once I get that trimmed down and I can get the top cowling on and pinned, I'm good. I'll move on to these side pieces. That's the plan. After I get everything in and I can put the top cowling on and pinned, maybe at that point I'll do some paper clips, and that will give me more of a fine tune, if you will, to cut the baffles. That's the route I'm planning on doing right now as I'm speaking to you. If that ends up being a pain in the butt, I'll try to figure out something else. But for now, that's the road I'm going to go down. Let's see what happens. Talk to you guys later. All right, hopefully here you can see the black hash marks that I had just drawn on the underneath of the top cowling. And again, those are measured from the back edge of the cowling, the firewall edge of the cowling, inward about 11 inches. That's roughly what I had measured on the airplane. And I made another tick mark here. That is roughly center line. So now that I have the baffle in hand, if you look at where these bolts bolt to the engine and how that bracket is shaped, this edge is roughly center lined on the cowling. And again, these are just rough estimates at the moment while we try to get this figured out. So at this point, all I do is I take that edge of the cowling and put it roughly center, which is this mark here. And then I also align the bottom edge of the cowling in line with my black tick marks. So I'll put the cowling on the tick marks, put this edge roughly in line with the center line here. And then at this point, all I do is take a Sharpie marker and I lay it flat on the cowling. And then I just drag it across the cowling with the tip up against the baffle. So again, I just lay the marker flat on the cowling and then drag it across to make the line on the baffle. So I've already made one pass so that you can see that the cowling is starting to take shape already. And you can see that I just made another pass with the marker. That's the black line. And again, just to demonstrate that if I can, I just take a Sharpie marker, I lay it flat against the cowling, and I obviously touch the tip up against the baffle, and then I'll just drag it across and it will follow the shape of the cowling and put it right onto the baffle. So at this point, what I could do, I can cut this line, come back, fit the baffle, Sharpie another line on, cut that, put another, after I get that cut, put the baffle back on, keep doing that over and over, keep drawing lines, cutting them, draw a line, cut it. Or I can just take this shape and bring it down maybe a ½ an inch or so and retrace it and cut it. But I don't want to do that yet. I'm just going to go ahead and cut this one, and then I think I'll do a third and cut it, and then I'll fit it back to the airplane and kind of see where I am. I'm a little nervous at the moment because I've got a hole here and I don't have a lot of room. I just started cutting this down. I don't have a lot of room here. I hope I don't have to take a whole lot out of here, because if I get down too close to this hole, I'm going to be in trouble. Not there yet. Let's hope for the best. So let me do some cutting and some fitting, and I'll talk to you guys here in a minute.